Tell us about your musical history, your career. Like, when did you start composing? When did you really first fall in love with music?
I wanted to become an electronic engineer. I was in music. The mother said, don't go there.
All Indian mothers say that.
This is ulta. Usually when the children go to music, the mother says, no, become a doctor.
Yes, of course.
Here the mother, because her husband was a musician, so she wanted me to become a musician too, and that's a good decision, I think.
What do you think's been your best year? Like, in your whole life, what's been the most impact for you?
I think the first year, 92, when I first did my first movie, that set the standard for me, and that got me the love of people and stuff. And I would say, in the recent years, it's, of course, the Oscar year.
Yeah.
Last year, I would say.
Where would you say, for you, you sort of take most inspiration from?
Luckily, in the movies, you have to do everything. You have to be a Michael Jackson, you have to be Hans Zimmer, you have to be John Williams, you have to be yourself.
Yeah.
And so you kind of explore every possible musical, landscape.
I know that Dido's in the picture, and I know that you've done some work with Usher. So can you tell us about any of the things that are coming up or what you're doing?
Usher is working on a movie soundtrack, and it's a song for a movie. I can't name yet.
Is it an Indian movie?
Yeah, Indian movie.
It is an Indian movie?
We finished the song, and then...
That's an exclusive.
and it's a movie called Sultan, of course, I'm going to tell you.
He told us.
It's the end credits. It's an animation movie with Rajinikanth as lead.
Wow.
And the other one, Dido, we're just trying a couple of demos to see what's happening, exchanging demos and seeing.
Going back to Jai Hall, you worked with the Pussycat Dolls, which I think I was there when we first discussed
the first drafts of stuff.
Yeah, and I remember...
you know the lyrics? It was, I'm sexy, 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 sexy. They had like 39 times sexy in it. And then he said, no using the word sexy.
Well, I think there was a bit of a story here. There was myself and Rahman and Jimmy Iovine in the studio, well, in his office, and they said to me, oh, Angela, would you go down and just kind of have a look at the lyrics that the lyricist was coming up with? And it was sexy, 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 Jai Ho, sexy, sexy. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just phoned up Jimmy and I was like, okay, this is not going to work. Because Jai Ho and sexy, sexy, sexy does it. And then Jimmy was like, can you phone your mum up and can you ask her what the translation is? So we were trying to come up with all the translations, but it was a funny story. But eventually we came up with I think you came up with an amazing track with Nicole.
Yeah, I think Ron
Fair was involved. And I think that Nicole sort of wrote
we wanted to make it work. The people hated the attempt. You want the Pussycat Dolls? No.
But
I think Nicole is one of the loveliest person I've met.
She really is. And what was really nice is that she'd embraced the Indian culture long before we dressed her in a sari for Fashion Rock. So by the time you came along, the
sari went off.
she was in a good place. So I mean, talk to us about working with Nicole and doing that track. Like, how was that for you?
Well, the track had it all, first of all, and it needed some editing because it had so many different musical elements. It had to limit to 3 minutes. So Ron Fair, I think, took the liberty to cut the track a bit to suit it to the Western sensibilities. But we've been collaborating on, maybe for this album, doing a couple of demos with Nicole. And she would probably dance till midnight and come at 12:30 in the night, tired, but enthusiastic, and it's been good.
Do you prefer being on stage or in the studio? What do you prefer?
I prefer both. I normally wish to do a tour once in 2 years, so I get enough new films. But the past 3 years been chaotic, been doing in and out. So my tours were all like 96, 98, 2000, 2002.
Yeah.
Like every 2 years, so I can get my piece. And then.
In terms of the Desi film industry, do you think, I mean, people talk about this all the time. I mean, Shah Rukh Khan was recently on television talking about it in the UK, about it crossing over and becoming, as palatable for the Western audience as it is for an Indian audience. What do you think about that?
Well, I always think that we embrace a lot of things. We have embraced Hollywood from the day I was born. I've been watching movies like Sound of Music or whatever, but we never had a voice, except for Ravi Shankar or Zakir Hussain or people like that. I think it's fair enough to have our own voice, and a lot of Chinese people also in it. Japanese people are there.
Yeah.
But Indians, not much. So I've felt the whole Oscars and the Grammys and everything kind of, I didn't have a sense of belonging to that. I thought it belongs to all of us, races out there. And it's a statement from all of us saying that we too can have our own expression, contribution, which can complement anything.
I've heard a lot of people say that for Indian movies to cross over, they need to get rid of all the song and dance routines.
Yes and no.
Oh, yes and no.
Yes and no, because you can't have a thriller and then you have suddenly one dance going.
It's called a dream
just because
sequence.
you get a great money in the music or in ringtones, and then you have a crowd puller in a song. It's good, but not every movie has to do that, I guess.
Yeah. You've become a role model for India, and therefore, brand values become associated with that. What are the brand values that you would like people to take from you or your music? Or
I don't know about me, but I wish to see that there would be an Apple from India, there would be a Microsoft from India, and leaders who can create something for the world.
Thank you.